Good evening. My name is Megan Castillo, and I am Town Hall's program manager. On behalf of the rest of the staff at Town Hall Seattle and our friends at Third Place Books, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's virtual presentation with Leigh Cowart and Dan Block as a part of our Arno G. Mosowski Science Series. As we get underway, I would like to acknowledge our institution stands on the unceded traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, particularly the Duwamish. We thank them for our continued use of the natural resources of their ancestral homeland. Thank you all for tuning in online. Town Hall is proud to be a community-focused organization and a place where we can share and sustain ideas and creativity, both in the beautiful Town Hall space and virtually. Town Hall will have new virtual content every week, including our weekly podcast, In the Moment, which features exclusive guests, and many of our past talks are available in video or podcast form on our digital media library. Town Hall is adding new events and podcasts every day. Upcoming events include Town Hall's celebration of 30 years of Savage Love with Dan Savage and Bill Radke, and next month, a fascinating exploration of plastic with Allison Cobb. Visit our website to join our email list and get the latest updates as more programs are added throughout the season. If you share in Town Hall's vision for a robust community engaged in the arts, science, and culture where everyone has a voice, please consider supporting us tonight by donating or becoming a member. Visit our website for more info. But back to this evening's event. Tonight's presentation will be about 60 minutes, including Q&A. To streamline our virtual audience experience, we've changed the Q&A platform for our events. To submit your question, please use your phone or computer to enter meet.ps/Cowart. We'll drop this link in the chat. And when we get to the Q&A portion, we'll remind folks again where to go. We can't guarantee that we'll be able to address every question, but we'll try to get to as many as possible. Please keep your questions concise and in the form of a question. For those who would like to view the program with closed captions, click the CC button in the bottom right corner of the video player. The program will be available for rewatching immediately following the event. Town Hall's work is made possible through your support and the support of our sponsors. Our science series is supported by Microsoft, the Nesholm Family Foundation, the Wyncote Foundation Northwest. Finally, Town Hall is a member-supported organization, so I'd like to thank our members watching from home. Lastly, you'll want to dive deeper into this evening's topic by purchasing a copy of the author's book. Please use the link in the chat below to pick up your copy through our friends, Third Place Books. Leigh Cowart is a researcher and journalist whose work has appeared in the Washington Post, New York Magazine, BuzzFeed News, Hazlitt, Vice, and other outlets. Dan Block is the founder and director of the Three-Legged Dog Sideshow, which has been performing across the country for a decade and producing events in Texas for 5 years. Cowart's book, Hurt So Good, The Science and Culture of Pain on Purpose, is the subject of this evening's presentation. Please join me in welcoming Leigh Cowart and Dan Block.
Hello.
I guess I should hold my book up. Hello.
No.
So happy to be here. Dan, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I'm pleasure to be here. Oh, I have a copy as well. Look at that.
Oh. So Dan is a sideshow performer who is in the book, and I'm so excited to get to the science of sideshow portion of this event that I'm going to jump right into the neuroscience of pain with a reading to kind of prime us for what we're about to talk about with Dan. How's that sound, Dan?
Absolutely wonderful. Take it away.
Great. This is from chapter 2, The Wet Electrics of Pain. A lot of things happen when you cut a tongue in half. Inside the shaky video playing on my phone, gloved hands grip the tongue, fat and filled with blood. Faced with this image, it is impossible not to think of leeches, impossible not to wince, impossible not to think of tacos de lengua between my molars. You know the way your mouth waters when you bite through your cheek, a flood of hot pennies mingling with spit that can't decide if it's going to be lubrication for food on the way up or on the way down? It's like that. The woman sits in the chair, quiet. Her face is serene under thin, drawn-on eyebrows, her mouth still and glittering, adorned with a Monroe piercing. The only movement is the back of her tongue, twitching like cardiac muscle or trapped animal. Purple ink demarcates the scalpel's future path. The assistant's hands are trembling, and whoa, isn't that just the worst thing about this? Only one person here gets to be visibly nervous, buddy, and let me assure you, it's not you. The customer's thickly lined eyes are closed and will remain so, a marble statue in repose. The scalpel handle is plastic and green and hovers near her mouth for a nauseatingly long time, a precursor to a horror show. But finally, we're off. It's not the blood that gets me. I see blood every month. I've birthed a baby and soaked through those enormous postpartum diapers parading as maxi pads. I've suctioned blood out of animal abdomens to clear the way for veterinary surgeons. I've spit the dredges of an errant nosebleed into my houseplants as fertilizer. What I've never done, however, is have a goddamn knife pushed through my tongue. I'm questioning my decision to eat while watching this video and possibly my decision to watch this video at all. I can't stop thinking about the hell the brain must create to meet such an imposition. Watching the customer willingly sit through this novel torture, I'm preoccupied by the cacophony of signals that must be rushing toward the dorsal horn of her brain. I cannot tell you what she's thinking in this very moment, but I can tell you this. The nociceptors on her tongue are fucking screaming the wet electrics of pain. Here's how that works. The nervous system of the human body is an elaborate structure for signaling and response that, on its own, looks a lot like someone tried to construct the basic idea of a person using fractal spaghetti. Your brain, trapped in the darkness of its own safekeeping, relies on input from its myriad sensory neurons in order to react accordingly to external stimuli and keep safe the ambling meat toilet that is your sole chance at existence in this treacherous world. At the most basic level, it's the job of the peripheral nervous system, which comprises all of the nervous system equipment outside the brain and spinal cord, to tell your brain what is going on. To do this, your body is covered in specialized cells. Called sensory receptors, these nerve cells are activated by environmental stimuli such as sound, touch, heat, light, taste, and smell. Broadly, we can categorize sensory neurons based on their respective specialties. There are chemoreceptors that detect chemicals, thermoreceptors for temperature, photoreceptors that alert to light, and mechanoreceptors that pick up on forces like pressure and stretch. But sensory equipment is handy for more than just appreciating nice body odor or listening to trash music in secret at the gym. Sensory equipment must also tell us when bad things are happening. To this end, the brain needs to know when the body is being harmed, so it can invoke the sensation of pain. It's a critical system, and one for which I dare say we should be more regularly and attentively thankful. For people born with a congenital insensitivity to pain, they face the difficult prospect of trying to navigate the world without the feedback necessary to keep them safe. How do you know you have an infection if you can't feel the pain associated with it? How do you learn your safe limits if there's no signal that they have been transgressed? People who can't feel pain will effortlessly walk on broken bones, bite through their lips, and bloody their feet in ill-fitting shoes. They often suffer severe self-inflicted injuries that dramatically shorten their life expectancy. Simply put, we need pain to keep us safe, but pain itself is anything but simple. It seems counterintuitive. Although our experience of pain feels immediate and straightforward, it's nothing like flipping a switch. Rather, Pain is a complex and subjective experience that is created by the brain itself. That's right. Your brain creates the sensation of pain. But to do that, it needs to know that there's a problem. Lucky for us, one type of sensory neuron is devoted solely to detecting harm, the nociceptors. Nociceptors are sensory neurons that sound the alarm when they're exposed to stimuli that they consider to be damaging or potentially damaging to the body. Structurally, they have a cell body that's attached to a tendril called an axon. The tendril snakes away from the body of the cell until it becomes a spray of free nerve endings. These tips respond to chemical, thermal, and mechanical dangers like other sensory neurons, and they turn the perceived danger into electricity. Once the baseline threshold of danger is met, say by touching a hot stove or stubbing a toe, nociceptors sound the alarm by creating an electric signal and sending it to where the alert can be passed on to the brain for review. Speaking of such squishy bits, let's get back to that gore video. When the scalpel makes contact with the woman's tongue and begins its hot butter knife slide through the skin, it enters the receptive field formed by the peripheral ends of the nociceptors. These receptors require a certain threshold of intensity to be met before firing, and thank goodness for that. Were the danger-sensing nociceptors to misfire, the body would quickly turn into a very painful reimagining of the boy who cried wolf, sounding the alarm vigorously when no real threat is present. I mean, just ask anyone unfortunate enough to get into a tiff with a male platypus during breeding season. I know it may sound sorely tempting to many of you, but seriously, do not do it. Platypus venom causes a severe increase in sensitivity to pain, a condition known as hyperalgesia. It gets nociceptors to fire indiscriminately, which is a very polite way of saying that it makes your pain sensors scream bloody murder for no reason. The venom itself is not lethal to humans, though I imagine that some of the people unlucky enough to feel its effects might wish that it were. This leads to long-lasting pain that even morphine can't touch. I hear it is truly hell on earth. That nociceptors fire when there is the potential for damage is an anatomical gift. That they usually do not sing of warning when there's none to be heeded gives us a piece that most likely will be taken for granted. But here, in this gruesome video that I'm silently watching amid a bustle of cheerfully oblivious tourists in a West Asheville coffee shop, it appears that the nociceptors of our intrepid tongue splitter are working as intended, zipping up her axons and delivering a resounding, "What the fuck?" to her central nervous system. As the scalpel begins to slice, she sucks in a deep breath of air, her nostrils folding closed. Though the video is zoomed in very closely to what is happening around her mouth, I can see the unmistakable crinkle of skin around her eyes, signaling what I imagine to be a vastly understated wince. It's worth noting that her nociceptors would be firing similarly were she to suck on a hot poker or take a sip of bleach. But today, the mechanical damage of the scalpel that has her pain receptors turning noxious stimuli into electrical energy. And her first wave of pain signals are heading to her brain at a zippy rate of about 20 meters per second. Thank you, Dan. So nociception is so cool because we can measure it. But before we jump into the sideshow part of this, I do want to point out that pain is always 100% subjective. And your brain takes into account context, emotional state, expectation, desire, arousal, all of that before it delivers to you the experience of the pain that you're going to feel. So, which is why like stubbing your toe when you're in a bad mood and not expecting it hurts a lot. But if someone were to like, I don't know, give you a vaccine without you knowing it or something, you might not necessarily feel the pinch. But if you're focused on the pinch and you have a needle phobia, it would be much more painful. There's no one-to-one stimulus to pain algorithm for the brain. It's every time cooked up fresh. Is that your experience, Dan?
Absolutely. People usually find that what I do to be very uncomfortable. If you are watching and you don't know what that means, you're going to find out pretty quickly. And the experience of, do you want me to show you, or should we want to just jump into it?
Yeah, let's jump into it. We only have an hour. What you got?
Okay, so I was going to start off with the things that I learned. All right, so this is the mousetrap. There's a certain kinds of stunts. If you're not familiar with what sideshow is, back when carnivals began, circuses began touring, there was something that went on the side of the main show called sideshow. This is usually jugglers, natural born wonders, and people that did things that were questionable and probably stupid. So this is a regular mousetrap. They're Victor. Yeah, just ones you can buy at Home Depot. I buy most of my things at hardware stores. This is an interesting stunt. So the first time I did this, so the first time I did that was terrifying because we're taught don't put your tongue in a mousetrap. It's something that's stupid. You shouldn't do it. Why would you do it? The first time I did it, though, it wasn't a pleasurable experience, but the high that I got from it was one of the most natural highs I've ever experienced in my life. I began running around and I kept showing people because I realized I really like how people react to this. And I did it, I don't know, like 20 times in 45 minutes. Ow, that one has a hit. And then if you do it more than 3 times in an hour, your tongue will turn black and start to bleed profusely. And I went up to one of my teachers and she said, do it more than 3 times? Can't do it more than 3 times. Where was that in the lesson?
That seems like an important part of the lesson.
I agree. So absolutely, expectation changes things. Now I know how it's going to feel. I can keep doing that until I started to bleed. And I might for you people.
Do you still feel so I'm assuming what you feel when you feel good afterwards has to do with the endorphin rush and the activation of the endocannabinoid system to kind of give your body the pain relief that your brain thinks it needs for this act. Do you still get that rush when you do?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty happy right now from that. The rush changes, and depending on what it is, part of the experience is definitely doing things that you shouldn't do, which is pretty much everything that I have behind me. Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get into sideshow, Dan?
I was a very weird child.
Oh, let's
put my finger in a lot of light sockets. Talk about that a lot. Truth be told, I always had a fascination with the circus. I remember as a kid, we went to go see Barnum and Bailey back when they still toured around. And there's a part where they bring out the wagons and all the quote unquote freaks come out and everybody gets on top of it. And I just remember being entranced with the knife thrower, the sword swallower, the snake lady, the woman that could fold herself into a box. That stuck with me stronger than I thought it did. I always thought it was just a little fun, morbid fascination. I love sideshow. I love performers. And then one day at an event out in Tennessee, I want to say, a gentleman asked me if I wanted to do the human blockhead, which we will cover in a moment. I agreed, and I found that I just absolutely loved it. The reaction was what I loved most. When I moved to Austin, Texas, I became a regular performer at an oddities museum called the Museum of the Weird, where I began doing this full time for about 4 years.
So do you feel like your experience of pain and then like the physiological kind of reward that comes afterwards, do you think that has changed over your career, or is there kind of a central feeling in your body of like, ouch, and then better?
I would, if I were to put it on a timeline, because I think that doesn't matter. When I began doing those things of the mousetrap, it really isn't that bad. Don't do it. Stay in school and read books.
Read this
book. Wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It's when I started doing this regularly. For instance, my tongue began to get really, really bruised. So I needed to learn a new trick. I wanted to keep it face focused. I had to go by the amazing face. So this is a propane torch. It's broken, so I use a lighter. Spicy. So I had to learn how to do that. And that's when the pain really began to pick up. I was going through a lot emotionally, as well as making more money than I've ever made as an adult in my life. From being a server or any number of things, people were way more interested in this. And then as that pain began to escalate, you have to, it's going to work. You have to force yourself to. Some people have a hard time getting out of bed. I had to put out the torch on my tongue one more time. So as that went on longer and longer, my daily relationship with it was, something just always hurts. It's fine. As you said, your body uses pain as a warning sign. After a while, your body just begins to tell itself, well, you did this to yourself, so you're fine.
I was a professional ballet dancer, so I feel like I get a little bit of the kind of like, well, I mean, I only have 3 toenails right now and my feet look like hamburger, but I'm at work. And I wonder, like, when I was deep into ballet, I kind of lost my sense of what was actually good for me or not, and I had to regain that. So how do you find the line where you're like, okay, this is okay for work and for me and whatever, and over here I might be taking this into a harmful place that is beyond what I want?
Well, there was definitely a period where I definitely pushed my body too far in different ways and began taking unnecessary risks as well. But that is a time before therapy. How I gauge it, yeah. This is how we get here, and then we get to hang out with y'all. I would say now, as that went on, you're at this point, I can recognize when something goes too far or when something goes wrong, which is really the scarier thing. I am professionally trained. This is not an episode of the show Jackass. I am not just some kid that picks things up. I'm very fortunate that I have teachers. Shout out to the Stray Cat Sideshow out of North Carolina. So I do know how to do these things, quote unquote, safely, but there is nothing safe about doing things like this. But at this point, if something goes wrong, you know immediately, and it's less of a warning sign as pain as it's a switch that goes, uh-oh, don't do that.
That's so curious to me, because it feels like for most of the things you do, the uh-oh switch would just automatically get flipped.
Ooh,
so
that's a good segue.
Okay.
It's gonna take some build up. So remind me of the question after I ramble for a while. But I do want to cover the other first thing that I learned. So I learned 2 things one random day in the middle of the summer in Tennessee. The first was how to set a mousetrap on your tongue, and the second was human blockhead. Now, this is Bob. I don't normally do shows at home and get to show this off, but I do actually use this in my routine to just a different perspective of what's going on. But we all know about this. Sinus cavity, it goes straight back. COVID really brought this to the forefront of a lot of people. Everyone knows that feeling in the back of your face. It just goes straight back, doesn't go up. So if you have what we in the biz call a big hole, this is a regular gutter spike. I buy these at Home Depot, Lowe's. You can as well if you'd like to. I do blunt it, but that's really just a personal choice. Empty glass bottle. I like the noise it makes. Oh, the things I do are disgusting in many ways. You're probably here to see them, but I do want to give a trigger warning for the next following thing. Don't try this at home. If you don't want to watch it, okay. All right, so you just take it and you put that sucker in. Now, this is called the human blockhead because in 1929, this guy, Melvin Burkhart, showed Robert Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not, and Robert Ripley said, Melvin, you're a blockhead, and so the act was born. Look, he's got a tiny nail in his nose.
Oh, wow. Now, I will say this is interesting because you have, if you look at your nervous system, you have these 2 pathways that go to your dorsal horn, my childhood speech impediment coming out. One comes up from the body and straight, and then the one from your face goes straight back. It doesn't dip down into your body and back up. So this is the trigeminal nerve pathway in your head that Dan is demonstrating for us right now.
I actually did have a doctor tell me that, and that what I was doing was a very bad idea, but here we are. Now, why I wanted to bring this up, because when the warning signs go off, there is one thing that I like to do that is a good mix of, in my opinion, are the stunts of things you shouldn't do that are going to hurt less than the perception of it, things that hurt way worse than people actually think it is. This one's in the middle. Drill. I'm not looking for a sponsorship, but if you know somebody, hi. This is a regular drill bit. It is blunted. This was a gift from one of my teachers, but my teachers and most sideshow performers are, I'm trying to think of a non-swearing version of this, rude people. So this is a gift mainly because it was bent. Now, if anybody ever does construction work, you know that a bent drill bit turns into a blender. I mostly straightened it out, but I didn't know this at the time. So the first time I did this, I'm getting closer for you. Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Well, the first time I did it, the little ridges caught that little bone in your nose that collects pollen, and it popped that sucker out. This is in front of a live audience, and this is one of those, oh, you guys have to go sort of situations. The sound of a drill, it moving towards your face, the light, the drill bit, everything, your body screams, don't do this. Why are you doing this? You're an idiot. You shouldn't do this. You have to learn to get past that. The first few times I did this in front of an audience, it was some of the scariest times of my life. Now though, look at that, yeah.
Does it hurt?
I
mean, that seems like a stupid question, but like, I am curious.
It doesn't anymore, and that leads me to my next point, because this is a pretty good visual indicator of your sinus cavity, most people's sinus cavity. The COVID thing is a good example, because you know the test is that tiny little Q-tip. Most people can't fit big things in there. Mm-hmm. I started with something like this. Now this is just a regular nail. I got it from the Renaissance fair, so it's made to look like a little tiny sword, which is perfect. But just a regular nail. This is about 4 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. No, 2 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. And most people can fit this in their face. I really wanted to get to something like this, because this looks so much better in front of people and is more impressive. Everyone told me that it's impossible. You have two choices. You can you're naturally born with a big hole, or supposedly if you break your orbital socket, you can put anything up there, but I don't actually believe that. I thought, oh, I've got a lot of friends that do body modifications. I've been involved with those people before. They just gauge up their piercings. So I could do the same thing, right? I'm the only person that I know that did that. So now that I'm at a size like this little drill bit, it's throwing a hot dog down a hallway. Yeah.
When you were gauging your nose, did you feel like, one, how much did that hurt? And two, so I figured it would. Did you get any sort of like biochemical relief during it? Or is it just like, was your expectation that you were going to do this until it got better and that was the reward? Or did you along the way feel like you were getting something out of it other than just the pain itself?
Money is an amazing motivator.
That's legit.
And I will I say part of the reason why I do still do this is, I mean, it's fun and I enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but it is still the best paying job I've ever had as an adult. I have been a waiter. I used to work at the Olive Garden. You can probably guess why I do this now. I've done everything you can do under the sun. This is still the most enjoyable thing. At the time, yes, your face just hurts. There was a lot of blood because step one was just digging out the tissue and the cartilage. I had a ridged nail and it would just pull out a little bit every single time, but you're also doing this in front of people. And I will say my pain tolerance, it goes up dramatically when I know people are watching. So doing live shows every day, the chemical relief of the natural high, the serotonin, the endorphins, was happening so regularly with live audiences that I don't think I noticed it as much as I should have. But then, yeah, one day,
that's a really good point.
One day I just took one of these and I just crank that sucker back there with an actual hammer. I could feel the entire thing just shift to the left. And then we were good.
Do you only do the one nostril?
Yes. People do work, play. That is a joke. So
how do you think your experience of pain differs from someone who might not be on your line of work?
how do you think people, I'm sorry to throw it back at you immediately. How do you think most people react when they try to go on point in ballet for the first time?
Oh, they black out. It's very
painful. People can't handle this very well. I'm a little shocked. I was really quick to it, but then I came to find out later in life, I have all the telltale signs of somebody who would fall into doing this. I love attention and I have a love being uncomfortable. So when I tried to teach people this before, they've had visceral reactions that I was a little shocked by. I had a friend start to cry once. She couldn't even get the nail near her face. She just burst into tears. And I was like, I don't really see the problem with this. Like, what's going on? People refuse to put a torch out on their tongue. I've had to like coach people through this. And then I've got a friend, she swallows swords, Pixie Pinwheel. She swallows swords. She squirts juice out of her eyeballs, which is incredibly painful.
I love that one.
But she won't put her hand in like a rabbit trap. And I'm like, but you're already messed up. What point? It's fine.
That's such a good point, because like pain is so context based and expectation based, and you could have like it does, and it's not logical necessarily. Like it's just your brain, your experiences, what you've been through, where you are, and I guess how aroused you are comes into it too, in certain situations. Because like I've known people who are covered in tattoos who hate needles in a medical setting. And I think that just shows very elegantly how the way we react to pain is not necessarily a like stepwise logical chain of events. It's very emotive and it's very personal. So back to you. What do you want to do now?
Oh God, you brought up, I'm not going to make that joke. Hang on. I do want to show off the balloon.
Yes.
Doing this so often, you do meet a lot of people, and I love the reactions. You get a lot of gasps, you get a lot of laughter. 1 out of every 25 people, maybe 50, there is something sexual about what I'm doing. And this is a good example of that because it involves a balloon. Now,
that's such a great setup.
Thank you.
Dan, what are you doing with this balloon?
Oh, let me show you. So this is a lot of what we do in Sideshow is repeated of the same thing. The human blockhead, like I said, 1929. Every Sideshow performer you'll ever meet will know the original script that Melvin himself wrote. They will do the stunts. It's a little bit rarer to find originality because there's only so much you can do to hurt yourself. This is one of my original things. I call it the reverse fellatio with a twist. Yeah. I also want to point out, this was one of the most painful things I ever learned how to do. It's not going to look painful because I have done it a disgusting amount of times.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh. I lick balloons in front of strangers for money.
It's good to have a job.
My parents tell people I'm a tour guide.
I mean, right now you are a tour guide of pain, and I appreciate that. Oh my God.
For those of you who don't know Leigh, one of the few things I knew about them before this whole experience was they love disgusting things. Everyone knows your sinus cavity is connected to your mouth. It's all the same juice. Everyone knows that. Everyone's squirting milk out of their nose. I have gotten very good at transferring things. Now, I do want to do something where I put a quarter in my nose and spit out 5 nickels, but I'm worried to get lost.
That's legit.
Now, online shows have been difficult, especially with COVID and being away, but my favorite thing is you get to get really close to the camera.
Oh, please indulge us all.
So you're going to look at this and most people don't get to.
pathway really taking a beating. I will clap for you. Wow.
Available for pre-order now.
Yeah. You get a nose balloon. You
I didn't bring it inside of this room. I do have a glass head full of balloons that have all been inside of me because I was doing this 75 times a week for years. So I believe each balloon head is roughly 1,500 different balloons, which represents like 3 months of work.
wow. So what do you feel in your face while you were doing that? And also scissors in the nose.
That's probably my favorite.
Wow.
People are very uncomfortable with that. The balloon thing is based off of a medical procedure called the sinoplasty. When they decompact congested sinuses. I was reading about it and I thought, I feel like I can do that. So that I just put a balloon back there and pumped that thing up. The first time I did it, it expanded in my sinus cavity and I felt my ears pop. And I got really scared that I was going to die. So I Googled it and that's when I became really familiar with the procedure. It's uncomfortable. It hurts very badly at your soft palate because you shouldn't be pulling things there. Your body's not accustomed to that. My soft palate is permanently open. Sometimes when I'm eating, food goes up. So another reason you shouldn't do this.
Dan, would you consider yourself a masochist?
No, actually, I would not. I mean, now that I've read your book, yes, because we all are. So you should all read the book to understand, because I learned, even though I was interviewed for the book, I read it and thought, damn, I learned something about me today. So yes, of course I am. I love pain and I love causing people to disgust, and disgust is related to pain.
Aversive experiences are compelling, and I'm curious as to why. It's my whole thing. Dan, I think we have time for one more. If you would like to do one more, we can do one more, or we can go straight to questions. How you feeling?
I'm here for it. I'm about everything behind me. All right. Oh, whoa. Do we have time for two quick ones?
Yeah, we got time for two quick ones.
All right, cool. Then we'll start with this one and we'll end on the other one. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
This is an opportunity for me to plug a project I've been working on. It's called Hellraiser the Musical, a musical journey through pain and pleasure. So look away if you don't like eye stuff. And on my experience in this profession, no one does.
Oh, thank you for the warning. Wow.
Oh, you do have to train your eyelids to lift things. I'm going to lift a Jack in the Box. This is a muscle. I have had it almost tear out my eyelid before. That's mostly because drunk people like to hit things. Now. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're hanging. Let's get in close to that, shall we? I'll be honest, this is probably the most painful thing that I do. And alone, but before the camera comes on, I can't even practice this anymore because it hurts so bad. But once I'm with people, here we are.
Oh, that's wild. So you don't do this one on your own? But the fact that
not anymore, but every show, usually I hang a 3-tiered vegetable basket and we play Bozo Buckets.
Bozo Buckets?
And do you know who Bozo is?
Like the clown?
Yes, the clown. Do you remember Bozo Buckets?
No.
Her. It's 5 buckets, kids threw ping pong balls at it. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, folks. Now, real quick, I want to show one more thing and then we'll get to the Q&A. Like I said, I am a blockhead, and this is a very original, very standard thing you'll see in Sideshow. What you won't see is someone do something like this. Regular nail, like I said, you don't have to pound it in. The hole is just there. The rules for the human blockhead are the same as anal sex. Lots of lube, go slow. If it hurts, take it out, readjust, and most importantly, remember to have fun. Now, this is, oh yeah, I probably should have worn that too. This is a 10,000 volt stun gun. It is standard to buy them. You probably got one at home. Everyone does. Maybe not everyone. But I'm going to take this. I'm going to hit this nail. Y'all are going to cheer. I'm going to yell why. It'll be great. Here we go. It's weird doing this
time.
alone in my
You
room.
want me to
Here we
count
go.
you down?
Yes, please, actually.
All right, we'll start. We'll start at 5. 5. I'm trying to draw it out. Come on, you don't look like I do this. I'm gonna draw it out.
Fair.
We're starting at 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait, really quick. So my hair is not going to poof out. My eyes are not going to spark. I am just tasing myself in the face. People are sometimes underwhelmed by this. And to them, I say, you try it. Here we go. You want to start from 5 again? You want to go from 3?
No, we'll start from 3 this time. I'm not going to be as dramatic. It's okay.
All right, hit me.
3, 2, 1. Oh! Dan, what does that feel like?
Oh Lord. You feel it in your teeth, first and foremost. Secondly,
What in your teeth?
Oh, you feel the current in your teeth. It connects to your fillings. It's like a buzz in your ear. And it's kind of like that ringing you hear in your ears, but a little bit different. With that stunt in particular, hang on a second. With that stunt in particular, I had a woman once go, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "No, I'm a doctor. Are you okay?" And I said, "I have so many questions." And she said, "This is how they used to treat depression back in the 1930s. Have you noticed any change in personality?" And I said, "I wouldn't know, and you don't know me." So who knows?
I mean, it takes all kinds. What do you get out of doing painful things in front of people, Dan?
At this point, serotonin. It is exciting. We did a show last night for 1,250, like 1,000 people for a podcast. And walking out on stage and having the excitement immediately puts me in a better mood. And then doing things and having people, the shock, the amaze, the wonder, you get so many varying reactions on this stuff. Some people are super into it. Some people aren't, but they can't look away. Some people scream involuntarily. I'm also a stand-up comedian, and it's just a very different experience.
That sounds like it. Well, want to do some questions?
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, this one's for you. Fantastic. Can you talk more about why we're all masochists?
Oh, yeah. So masochism is actually very normal. There are all sorts of ways that humans do aversive things on purpose, be it nail biting, hot sauce, pole dancing classes. Like, there is just so many ways that in our daily life, we are deliberately consenting to do something that we know is going to hurt a little bit for some other reason, so that it hurts and then we feel better. And we can feel better because of testing our resilience, because of the endorphin rush, because it like speaks to some like inner need to be curious and explore. And it's been going on like throughout human history. And I think that people have a difficult time talking about masochism today because the colloquial term that we use for pain on purpose, masochism, comes from one specific guy's sexual fetish, right? Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, author of Venus in Furs. The word is based on his sexual proclivities, and people were very upset by that. He was a very famous writer until people realized that what he was writing about was his actual sexual fetish, and then everyone was just like, "Oh no, God, please no." But it's so normal, and we all dabble in it in these ways. Pain helps us create meaning, and pain brings us like into the present moment in a way that very few things do. So it's normal to want to engage in high sensation things just to see, like, for all sorts of reasons. And I guess what I'm trying to do in my work is get people to be a little less squirrely about talking about pain and a little more curious about the ways that it actually influences our daily lives.
Next question is, what is going on in our brains when we see other people do painful things, parentheses, like the taser thing?
Yes. So There is some level of like mirror neuron activation, kind of like when you see somebody throw up and you kind of want to throw up too. So humans are very hypersocial creatures, and we are constantly scanning for ways to keep ourselves safe, for more information about what to do and what not to do. And it's very fascinating to us to see people kind of get to the extreme levels of pain or sensation, because it's more information for our brains, which are just like trapped in darkness and trying to just keep the meat of our bodies safe. So it's wild. We humans do love to watch. They really do. Even if the act of watching is not pleasant and might actually be masochistic unto itself.
Oh, awesome. Do you sterilize everything you put up your nose? I assume that one's for me.
You
No,
did just
but
lick everything.
you do to lick everything. That is, the disgust factor is there no matter what, but it's all juice. It's all the same juice. It's all your juice. So for the most part, no. I do clean them up occasionally, rubbing alcohol, but that's just because I'm not trying to be ultimately disgusting. Although on stage, when you drop a nail on the ground and pick it up and do it, people love that. Oh yeah.
Yum.
Uh, are people who are interested in pain also often interested in fear?
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a good question.
Yeah. I definitely don't have the study to pull up to give a really rigorous scientific answer on that. But I feel like because fear is intimately linked to pain. We fear pain kind of generally as an organismic creature. And fear can intensify pain. So if you're afraid of it hurting and focused on the fact that it might hurt, then your brain will generally give you more pain, which is why they distract babies for vaccines, right? Instead of letting the little kid just look at the needle and fear the needle and then feel the needle, you talk to the kid, you play with their feet, you distract them, so the fear doesn't have time to increase the painful experience. So in that way, fear and pain are very linked. In terms of individual interests, it definitely seems like there's some overlap. But beyond that, I am awaiting science and the work of scientists to more vigorously link those things.
Oh, I can tell you over here personally, I am terrified of everything, anxious, and I don't think that you are myself.
Were you scared of things? Were you scared of the stunts you do before you started doing them? Did you feel fear?
No, sorry, I jumped in before you asked the question. Yeah, I think a lot of the reason why I got into it was because I knew how to do the human blockhead. I was familiar. As time went on, you begin to understand, okay, there's a way to do this, there's a way to not do this. I'm also afraid of roller coasters, but that's unrelated.
That's so
I
weird.
am going to jump to your question because this is a good one. Thank you for this, Leigh. I can't wait to read the book. I know someone once who was interested in and made zines about using BDSM type experiences to process, practice for, and heal from non-consensual encounters with the police. Are you interested in this tradition at all?
Sure. Yes, I am. I will say that BDSM is not therapy. Those are two very different things. But there are people who use BDSM as a therapeutic tool, and that the act of recreating or creating a version of an experience in which you have full control over it can be very healing for some people. For example, I have a lot of medical trauma. Getting into needle play was very, very scary for me, but experiencing needles in a situation where I had all of the control, I could stop at any time, and I was calling the shots, helped create a safe container for me to experience a physical sensation that previously I had traumatic associations with. Is that the same thing as therapy? Absolutely not. I have a therapist. I see her twice a week. It's great. But doing this kind of like sexual hobby definitely helped me heal some things in myself in tandem with therapy and all the other things that I do.
there's also a lot of trust involved in these kind of situations, and it bleeds over in what I do with BDSM. This trust creates a safe space, and that safe space allows people to experience what, in my opinion, and look at what I do for a living. Don't ever listen to me too much, but allows people to re-experience things that they may have walled off as a child, but in a place where they are allowed to feel. And that's one of the hardest things I've ever faced off in therapy myself, is processing.
Yeah. Pain creates a kind of a very deliberate container for things. And consenting to pain gives you a chance to experience something in a way you can opt out of. Obviously, there's no masochism without consent. Pain without consent is just suffering, and that's something very different. That's not what I'm writing about. But if you are able to say, yes, I want this, yes, I'll try this, and yes, it's in my power to stop it, that's when we get into masochism. And that's when we can start kind of peeling apart the layers of why people of all different stripes get into pain on purpose and what they're getting out of it, because it's a lot bigger than just sex. Like it impacts us at all levels of our life. And, you know, like even a really hard jog, pushing yourself painfully in exercise, you get something out of it. You get something physical from it. And I think that there's so much to be curious about, and why we do this and what we get out of it and what it says about us as individuals and as humans in general.
Leigh, what brought you to want to speak more about the neuroscience of pain?
Oh, I'm a huge nerd. Short answer, huge nerd. My background after ballet, I did molecular biology. I started out as a science writer. I really love being curious about these big unanswerable questions, and then bringing the science in as it comes to kind of support the direction of my curiosity and get me to ask even more questions, which is frustrating to some people. I'm like, I have one question and now I have 7, but I love that. I love that. And I don't think that something needs to be answerable in order to be asked.
A lot of your previous articles were all building up to this book. Absolutely. The one about the pitcher and the testicle.
Oh, yeah. I wrote a column for Deadspin years ago called Meat Sack. And so I covered sports injuries. And one of the more famous pieces from that was about what happens when you take a fastball to the testicles without a cup. And you can find that online if you want. Just Google.
I do highly recommend everybody read it. Oh Lord.
It's good. I talked to professional, like I talked to experts about testicles in order to do it, which is fun. You call some world expert in urology up and you're like, hello, I have a very specific question about testicular trauma that I'd like you to answer. It's for work. And
but I got to assume everyone is so enthused to discuss these things, because how often do you really get to? I mean, everyone who is involved with these kinds of situations is as much of a nerd as you are, and I am.
Yes, it's great. I have the best job, truly.
What other kinds of things do you do in your book?
Like, what did I do personally in the book?
Yes.
Yeah. So I ate the world's hottest pepper. Which I mean, I don't know if I say I recommend it, but like I did do it again. So, do
it again.
Yeah, a couple times now, actually. I did a polar plunge. I did the Coney Island polar plunge. I did, obviously my history as a ballet dancer is in there. There's some BDSM in there. I witnessed an ultramarathon, and that chapter in the book is the one that I get the most email about. The race I went to is a race without end, and the race only ends when everybody quits. And I won't spoil anything, but it was absolutely gruesome. And it turned me into a leisure jogger, which is one of the weirder things.
I'm
Like,
laughing because if you've read the book, it sounds so terrible.
and like, I'm very chill about it. I just like, I'm like a little pony. I run a few miles here and there, and it's great. And it's funny that going to one of the most gruesome and painful and difficult things to witness that I've seen, like that people were consensually doing, like these people said, yes, I'll do this and you can watch. And I was like, okay, well, I will watch. That turned me into a leisure jogger is very funny. And if you read the chapter, you'll see why.
Oh yeah, I will say I read half the book in audiobook because I drove back from Chicago in a 16-hour car ride straight, talk about a masochistic adventure. And that chapter, I'm not going to say anything about it, but it did understanding human spirit, or truly understanding why people do something that just sounds so absolutely insane. It actually made me cry because it was just so people pushing themselves past their limit for the sake of nothing beyond can I do it is just so fascinating and amazing.
Yeah.
I can understand why you get the most response from that chapter. It was so good.
Yeah, it was. I've never seen anything like it. And I did live tweet it when I was there. So if you search Twitter for the name of the race and my Twitter handle at Voracious Brain, you can find the delirious live tweets. But for like spoiler reasons, I recommend you read it before you go looking for the tweets. But if you'd like to see more pictures from that chapter, they do exist.
The audiobook also available, narrated by Leigh.
Oh yeah, I did the audiobook, which was fairly masochistic. It never occurred to me when I was writing my most intimate thoughts that I would ever have to say it while looking at an audio engineer. But I did, and I'm so happy with how it came out, and I'm so glad I got to do that. So the audiobook is available, and it's me.
Actually, this is a me question. Are there anything that you are afraid of and that you wouldn't try while researching this book?
Oh, for me?
Yeah. Oh, Amelie, this is a question from me to you. I'm curious.
I don't want to do anything that would actually harm me. But there are some things that I'm very afraid of that I still want to do that I didn't get to do for the book because of COVID. And that may be some future work. But one of the things that I really wanted to do that I'm absolutely terrified of is human suspension with hooks.
Yeah, pretty close to what I got going on.
Yeah, and I've never gotten to do it. And it's funny that I'm such a masochist because like I am a pudding baby. I'm so scared. I'm just like, I am scared of so many things and get the nerves and like have to nervous pee and I'm all upset. And then I do it and it's just like, and I feel like that's how suspension would be. But I also don't know for sure that I would go through with it. But that's something that's really scary that I want to do that may or may not ever happen. And it's fun. It's fun to have things out there that are really scary that you still feel drawn to. And so we'll see.
Was the term pudding baby?
Yes, that is what I said. I stand by it.
I'm absolutely here for it. No, I meet people that do that, especially at tattoo conventions, oddities things, and you just watch their skin stretch out beyond what looks humanly possible, and it's just they're gonna fall. You're gonna fall.
And then they're up there just like most of the time they're just smiling.
Yeah, then they're so happy. They're just I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, that to me, like you're watching their skin change color. You're just like watching like the body do something that you never thought you would see, and it looks like the worst thing imaginable. And they're just up there, just like twirling, grinning, happy. And I think that even though I am scared of it, my curiosity overwhelms almost everything. You know the saying, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. So I will likely try it soon.
Oh God. I'm right there with you. Don't worry. I just know that it'll be another one of those. You can never go back once you find something that you enjoy. You have to keep chasing that dragon.
All right, I think we have time for maybe one last question.
Let's see if anybody sends anything.
Do you have any more?
Currently not yet. So this is your last opportunity, everyone, to ask us anything. I also know a lot about Buffy.
I used to study bats.
Did you ever study bats in Austin?
No, but I have a lot of thoughts about Austin bats. So
I'm not sure we have time for that, but there will be more books in the future, I assume.
for sure. Right, I will ask you a last question, Dan.
Sure, hit me.
What do you think? What do you think pain brings to your life?
That is a broad question because.
Let me specify. What do you think consensual pain brings to your life?
Oh no, I have an answer. It's just a broad question. I always tell people it's work. It really is just work, and it just goes from doing a 9-to-5 grind to I have a nosebleed a lot and my face hurts and something's just probably wrong and then I'm probably going to deal with this in the future. So I encompass that all under the pain question, the pain that you're discussing. And what has it brought into my life? And the answer is I am more emotionally stable than I've ever been in before. I have processed things. I have become a much more adult person. And I don't blame everything on things that you shouldn't when you're 30 years old. And not only that, but it has also opened up amazing doors. Last night, I got to meet my favorite comedian because he wanted to have me on his podcast. I can't imagine that happening if I still worked at the Olive Garden. So pain has brought me so many things and opened up so many doors that otherwise I don't think I ever would see.
Good answer.
Thank you. Good question. Thank
you. Well, I think that wraps it up for us tonight. It's been really wonderful to be here and to get to see Dan, you do what you do so well. And it has been such a treat for me to get to see it in this way. And I'm really grateful that you agreed to do this with me.
Oh, I've been a fan of your writing for quite some time. I was very excited about the book. And being in it is an absolute honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Leigh and Dan. That was excellent. It was so much fun to listen and watch everything that was going on. We're at the end of our evening, so we're closing out the night at Town Hall. Thank you so much for everyone for watching and for joining us and asking all those great questions. If you want to purchase a copy of Leigh's book, make sure to visit our bookseller partner, Third Place Books. If you'd like to see more Town Hall events or donate, you can visit townhallseattle.org. And with that, have a lovely night.
Bye.